Okay, well, leave him there, that's fine, and we'll afterwards, because I would think it's gonna slow down.
Yeah, Bernie.
Sure, after lunch, so.
Not selected here in Bernie.
Yeah, okay, and I mean, if you, we'll just pay him, but, okay, that's fine for now. Well, Corey showed us the text where he told him not to come. Acknowledged it. He said, okay. We'll just talk about it later, so he stays there. Bye.
Corey, did everything go okay on Sunday?
Great.
Bernie, do you have your reading glasses? Oh, right here. What have you been up to today?
Break it.
Morning, how you doing? Can't complain. Beautiful out there.
I'm sorry. I thought you were ready to catch. Poke an eye out.
Oh, no, I think today's gonna be about the best day.
Today was here, they say anymore. Third Thursday, you know. Call people.
This way.
Well,
How was it going?
good, you?
Wonderful.
Agenda with ratification. Does anybody have any changes to the agenda? Does anybody have any changes to the agenda? Or adds? If not, a motion for the agenda?
So moved as presented.
You need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we'll go to the minutes from the October 6th, 2022 meeting. Are there any changes? There are no changes. I'd ask for a motion.
Move to accept the October 6th meetings as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? October 6, 2022 is passed. The October 10th, 2022 meeting. Are there any changes to that meeting?
I'll make a motion to accept the October 10th meetings.
You have a second.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. And going to accounts payable. Are there any questions on the bills?
Just had a comment on under bills under the county road, there's a grass seeding, it says Black Hills, that should be Black Feather, I guess, that's so,
It should be black feather.
yeah. And also MP Industries should be under the sheriff's department instead of the road department.
I'll move to pay the bills and along with the supplement.
I just want to add to on the supplement there, Nelson International, that was for $133,000. That's for a truck purchase, not for projects or filters or hoses.
What was that for, Mr. Franchuk?
It's under the supplement.
Yep.
There's under the road department, it has Nelson International hoses, filters and projects, $133,318.98.
Yes.
That was for a truck purchase.
Okay. You had a motion on the table from.
I'll second that.
Okay. Roll call vote. Commissioner Zander.
Aye.
Commissioner Messer.
Aye.
Commissioner Franchuk.
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. Sheriff's report. Corey Lee.
Chairman, Commissioners, good morning.
Morning.
I apologize for not getting you my sheriff's report. Obviously, yesterday was the 31st and quite busy for us. And then this morning, my computer decided not to work, which it's done multiple times. Doesn't let me in my files. All right. Kind of a recap for October for the Stark County Sheriff's Department. Calls for service 1,225. That's down from 1,412 last year. Traffic stops 146, that's down from 190 last year. Truck reg, she had a few stops, one of which resulted in a $3,000 fine. There's 14 accidents in the month of October that we responded to, 10 property and 4 injury, no fatalities. There's 35 canine usages, which resulted in multiple drug arrests. 12 theft reports, that's up from 10 last year. Transports, there was 13 prisoner, 1 agency assist, 17 court transport, 0 juvenile, 6 medical, and 3 mental health. We had a significant copper theft and theft of a dump trailer reported in the North Industrial area on the 29th, which was Friday or Saturday, I believe. I'm very proud to say our staff got this solved within a couple of days. Several of our divisions came together yesterday to get this piece together. A search warrant was obtained, issued, and served, and ultimately 3 males were taken into custody. So I'm proud of everybody for getting that done so expendiently.
Expediently.
Oh, I think it's exponentially. Quickly.
There you go.
We have also made very large strides in some other theft cases that have occurred in the last few months, and we'll get you some information on those as they become available. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Took care of that first one so quick.
County Road, Al Heiser.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Just kind of a little rundown with the road crew up to. We're hauling gravel today on 32nd Street, that grading project that Liberchuk's working on. We'll hopefully get all the pit run hauled in this week. With the weather kind of changing next week, hopefully it's not going to get too cold so we can continue. We still have some more work to get done on that project. I'll let our engineers do their report. I've been getting lots of news flashes on about the possible shortage of diesel fuel come this winter. And I'm just, I had a chance to talk with Neil a little yesterday. I don't really know if it's gonna come to fruition, but you know, we can only hold about 4,000 gallons of fuel at the shop. I mean, the price has been, you know, it's been all over the board this summer, but I'm just a little concerned if we maybe should get a little more fuel capacity on hand, just in case. Not only that, if I understand you can stay with quite a bit of savings if we buy a big tank and get tanker loads at a time, maybe 10 to 20 cents depending on the market. So I've reached out to the local dealer to see if we can get a price on a tank. I wouldn't want to fill it with winter fuel, but I think we should probably have a little more on hand. I mean, if a guy could look in the crystal ball and see what winter's going to do, but we don't know that.
What size tank are you looking
Well,
at?
we're looking at a 12,000 gallon double line. We have to have a double line tank. It can be pretty costly because it's a double line. Otherwise, we got to build some type of a structure around it, like a pit. And pits don't usually work very well because they fill up with rain. You get a lot of rain and stuff. So
Okay.
I guess what I'll do is next try and get that price and just kind of see where it's at. So hopefully it won't happen, but there's a lot of bad publicity out there. What can happen and what's happening out east already with the fuel shortage, especially with number one fuel. You know, that's a lot of homes are heated with that.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I really don't have anything else unless you got some questions for me.
Since you're up here, I think I'm just gonna move, have Jeremy Wood come up, and we're just gonna switch you and Jeremy, Mike, if that's okay. And then that way we can go and bring up anything concerning the 107th, so we can get that done and everybody can leave.
Okay. You want me to stay here?
Yeah. From the last meeting, there was just a lot of concerns on, I think after everybody, we heard everybody, we talked to everybody, I think kind of some of the commissioners, this was kind of a new thing that for me, I was just kind of taking in, you know, all the information. And I did go out there too. And a lot of people that live out there that were on the phone and everything else, they said they would never come talk in front of the podium because some people got heated and they were very disappointed. And they feel like there was a Band-Aid put on the problem. You know, it's like, and I'm just here saying what they feel like out there, and I'm speaking for them, so I don't make me the bad guy.
Well-
But when you have an engineer that is doing engineer work to make a paved road 55 miles an hour, and then as the county commission, we go and lower that to 45 because we all admit the hill isn't safe.
We were not admitting the hill wasn't safe.
No, we're just limiting the speed. We've got a 45 mile an hour speed limit with a 55 design. You
But
know,
how does that make sense? If you're gonna have a 55 mile an hour design and we're lowering the speed?
because it's safe for 55 and 45 should be a lot safer. That was brought up at the last meeting. Mr. Bauer was the representative for the neighbors. And I believe after we went through some discussion, Mr. Franchuk, they talked about a 45. He asked Mr. Bauer if everybody was okay with it. The people that are the most concerned were in the room. Nobody said anything. A motion was made to lower it to 45. There was no issue, but now all of a sudden, there's this big issue, so.
It's not a huge issue, it's just some
Well,
people
it
just.
sounds to me like it is.
So I'd like to address the 45 mile an hour speed limit. We made that compromise as a part of, I don't know if he's here today, Mr. Lohman, made the suggestion, maybe you could lower the speed limit to slow the traffic primarily for his intersection. And we did that as a compromise. So I think, you know, we've compromised and did our job there. So I just want to address the speed limit issue.
And you know what? We put our faith in our engineer. We have the DOT out there. If there's still concerns and they want to hire an engineer to come and give them a second opinion, that's fine. But we're not going to stick any more money into it, or I think we've done our due diligence on it. That's my opinion.
Our engineer also went to prove we could lower the hill and it isn't gonna affect the sight distance much at all.
Right.
The biggest thing is we move that whole road into the hill. Once you move it into the hill, you cut it down further, you lay your back slopes back further, you're starting to move. And like Jeremy alluded to the last meeting, it'll cost us, you know, $180,000 to lower that hill some more, and will it do it probably won't do any good. And since we had the last meeting, a motion was made to leave it the way it was, change the speed limit. I have now went and put the gravel on it. So now we're gonna, if something needs to be done, we're gonna have to remove all the gravel, stockpile that, lower the hill. But you know what? It's up to this board to decide what you want to do.
And at this point, we wouldn't do anything till next spring with it anyway, I don't think.
Well, I mean, there's lots of things involved here. I mean, we just can't leave it go. The grass needs to be seeded, and winter's coming, and so.
I just guess the ditch on the one side is, to me, and like I said, I mean, I'm just, you know what, I'm not here, I didn't bring all this up. I'm kind of getting looked at like all of a sudden I brought all this, I didn't.
Well, but it was decided at the last meeting to leave it, so I guess whatever the board wants to do. I thought it was resolved, but apparently it's not. You know, and then to talk about the ditches, they're all a 4-to-1 inslope. That's a gradual ditch. I had a conversation with a gentleman last week. He was concerned the semis were going to spin out and go down the hill backwards and tip over. Well, if somebody can't drive that road out there, they probably should have their driver's license looked at. I mean, as far as a semi spinning out and tipping over on that road.
But see, like right there, Al, that's why some people won't come to the meeting. That's why 2 people from out there won't come to the meeting, because they feel attacked. They're feeling attacked. And that's why they won't come and speak, because they don't want to be told that then you shouldn't have a driver's license if you don't know how to drive. I mean, that's how they're feeling.
You know what, this
and
is
nothing against, I mean,
no,
you do a great job. I'm not pinning you out at all. I'm not just pinpointing you. I'm just saying what I mean, 2 of the people said that when Commissioner Messer went out there. He looked at that road and he said, this definitely is a problem for farmers and for huge trucks. I mean, I'm just repeating what I've heard since that last meeting.
I don't know where the trucks have an issue that are going north and southbound. I talked to Mr. Betloff. We put him a great landing out there. He can pull up and he can stop on the level and take off. We had the DOT out there and looked at it. They said the only thing we wouldn't have done if it was a DOT project, we wouldn't have put that landing there to spend the extra money to make that landing. So, I mean, I'm not up here to be argumentative.
No.
it was brought back to the board, so I feel it's up to the board. What do you want to do? Because we need to put this to rest. This project is actively going, and it's November already. We need to get things done. So if you want to change it, you guys will have to.
I mean, and I look at that and I spent some time out there and I didn't the month before. I did not realize all this was going on. It's not my portfolio. I'm not saying anything that it's yours. I'm not making accusations, but maybe I'm just a little too passionate against it. Because there are a hell of a lot of blind spots on that hill compared to,
You ever?
Ken, it's not funny.
Excuse me?
That looked like you were laughing. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I mean, the blind spot I had on my intersection was minimal to this hill. Minimal. And to hire somebody for $12,000 to $14,000 for an engineer to make sure a life is saved?
I don't feel that we're here to second guess our engineers that we hire. These guys do work for us all the time, and we totally have faith in them. And I don't want to jeopardize that. And I totally have faith in the work that they did, and the DOT was there and they looked at it.
And I have total faith in Jeremy too. But if somebody wants to, we're not second guessing him. We're just protecting the county to make sure. For me, I think we put ourselves in a little bit of legal risk by all of a sudden lowering that to 45 when it was a 55.
It was their suggestion.
Yeah. So I want to address the three things that I brought up at the meeting that Bernie, I, and Al were out there with the residents. I did bring up the approach from the east. Talked about Mr. Lohman's turn when he would turn out of his approach and go to the north. Both of those issues have been addressed. We dealt with the speed limit. We dealt with the design and the sign-off requirements for the engineer to sign off. And it's a drastic improvement to what was there. It's going to be a great road. We're going to fight to get additional funding to...
6 seconds, Neil. Mr. Lohman has 6 seconds.
Well, I don't know. They did the calculations, so I don't know what it is. But 6 seconds at 50 miles an hour or 45 miles an hour, I don't know what that distance is, but it meets those approvals. And I can go around areas that I also farm, and I can tell you sightlines are significantly less than that. And so with the new road, I think we've done everything we need to do per the engineers. I don't know, Mr. Bowers here, he could address anything if he wants, but I think we've listened, we've made some compromises, and I think we've done our job.
And I know this isn't an easy fix any way around it. If it has to stay, it has to stay. But I just think that people should be able to come up and talk and not quite feel, the last meeting they felt pretty attacked.
I guess I didn't see us.
I didn't see that because, I mean, I asked Mr. Bauer if his group was all in favor of it, and I mean, nobody had a chance. I don't know why he was jumped. We asked, there was an opportunity there to come forward and say something. I don't know why they wouldn't.
Even the UPS driver gave us gave the number and said the road is worse with this hill than it was the last one.
I kind of find it hard to believe.
Yeah,
like when you
because-
come off the west side, you had to poke your nose around the corner to see somebody's coming because the main road was here and here. So, like I said, I'm not going to sit up and argue. But
No.
You just tell me what you want me to do. You know, leave it the same, or if you want to spend $200,000 and try and lower that hill way down and buy some more real estate, maybe $200,000 is cheap. Maybe it'll cost a lot more, but you just got to let me know.
And this isn't on you, Al. I mean, you always do a good job. You always do a
Well,
great
I mean,
job.
we-
It's just from the beginning of it all, and I guess we should have just been watching it more or something, because the people out there were not told that that road was going to get that high. Every one of them that called me, they did not realize that the road was going to be built up that high.
It's built to design standards, so you got the sight distance. So that's, Jeremy went up and showed you how roads are designed. There's a manual about that thick. He followed the manual. He followed the engineering standards. I can't say any more than that. So You know, if you come up that road and you sit there and look, since this thing's been, I don't know how many times I've stopped and looked. If you stop up there and you look, if you look to the right, you can see if somebody's below the hill. If somebody's coming, wait a couple seconds, they'll be there. If somebody's coming from the north, wait a couple seconds, you can see them.
You don't have to pull all the way up to the end of the approach to the stop sign. You can sit back there and wait till that vehicle goes by, and you can see if anybody else is coming, and you can go.
You know, I haven't thought about this. Pull off exit 59 one time and make a left-hand turn. You think that road is supposedly dangerous? But
My past experience in law enforcement covering accidents too, you guys took out a curve. I mean, to me, I've covered more accidents on curves than a straightaway intersection, you know, when they lose control and stuff like that, you know, but, you know, they have more apt to accidents on a curve, and that was eliminated too, but I think that road's safer this way, but.
And, you know, I don't live there, and the people, they have a right to voice their concerns, so good. I mean, that's, because that's not, we don't want to totally ignore them, but like I said, I thought the last meeting, we had a resolution. Some of the people that are having issues were here in the room, nobody said nothing. I don't feel that the last meeting, didn't feel comfortable to come up here, because Jeremy gave a nice presentation. I've talked to people, they said, he gave a good presentation, so I don't know what the solution or the resolution is, but.
And I don't know either. I just wanted there was just some people, and I just said, you know what, we'll put it back on if you want to be heard.
I don't know if anybody in the audience would like to come up and speak, but they're sure welcome to. So, I mean.
Did you want to?
I'm Dave Bauer. Thanks for listening, I guess, again. And number one, Dean, Commissioner Franchuk is right. You know, he did say he asked me point blank, is the 45 acceptable? And I said, yeah, it is. So really nothing's changed since the last time I was up here. But what has changed since myself and Mr. Lohman addressed the commission was that we've had more time to use the intersection, if you will, and use the 107th and 34th Street Southwest. And currently there's no signs posted, of course, for the 45, so everybody's still traveling at 55 because that's the last sign you see, or 55 plus. And so the comment was made by I don't know who, but allowing an extra second or two to get a visible sight of the traffic, and I do that now out of habit because I don't want to get hit. So I actually stop at the stop sign that's not there yet and wait, and then I proceed. And so we know that the road was built to minimum specs for the 55 mile an hour speed limit, the sight distance and the reaction time, which is great. And we're thankful for that. But what we're requesting is that there is more of a safety margin engineered into the design, not only of the paved road and the concerns that I just mentioned, but in addition to the severity of the ditches, especially on the east side of 107th. I think Chairman Carla said that. So as tax-paying citizens who use the road numerous times a day, we'd like to have the road re-engineered to add more reaction time, greater visibility of the traffic, and an overall safer finished product for the 107th. I made the comment last time and about, you know, once it's done, and there's no going back. And Commissioner Bernie agreed with that. I think he was the one. So we all want the same goal: roads paved and safe to travel. And now's the time to not just design the minimum specs, which has been done, but to rather reevaluate it and maybe add some more safety margins into the design of 107th. And that's what I got. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you for coming up.
Thanks, Dave.
So can more safety be added to this without spending a ton of money? Jeremy, if you could come up.
Well, I think there's probably a couple different issues. The inslopes or the ditch, that would be probably less cost than lowering the hill perhaps, but like Alan mentioned, the standard, it's no one maybe wants to hear. The standard is the 4-to-1, the Highway 22 is a 4-to-1, for instance. Doesn't mean we couldn't do 5-1 or 6-1 or 8-1, but there is gonna be a cost. But I couldn't tell you what that would be. But it would be a very radical change to go to a 6-1, for instance, which would be safer. There's no doubt about it. But I don't know what that number would be. So that's one thing. As far as lowering the hill, I think I gave a number of about $200,000 at the last meeting. I think that's a pretty realistic number. And I think I stressed that the sight distance wouldn't be any better. I think what Mr. Bauer's group really wants is it to be probably designed to a 65 and posted to 40 or 45. We can do that, but that's probably $500,000 perhaps, 400,000, whatever the number is, I don't really know. So there's things we can do, it's just a matter of how much money does the commission want to spend? And do you want to spend and design more than what the minimum is? That's really at the heart of the issue. Do you design more than what the minimum is or not and spend a whole bunch more money doing that? So Ms. Arthur, I can't give you an exact number, obviously, but there's things to do.
4-1 to 6-1, that's a rollover issue in the ditch. So should someone enter the ditch, or is it something in addition to that?
Well, I think the argument is if someone was to drift off the road, would they roll on a 4-1? Generally not. If they're in a box truck, yeah, and they try to overcorrect, definitely that would be an issue. A 6-1 would minimize that, but there's still probably, you could roll on a 6-1. You can roll on an 8-1. I mean, at some point, you've got to kind of weigh the economics of it too a little bit. That's my opinion. But
Jeremy, you should explain to them what's the difference between a 6-1 and 4-1 to people, so they know actually what that term really means.
sure. So when I say a 4-1, that just means for every, engineering terms, every 4 feet you go out, you drop 1 foot. 6-1 would be flatter. You'd go at 6 feet and you drop 1 feet. So it's a much flatter slope.
So that ditch is a 6-1? Or, I mean, a 4-1?
It's a 4-1. In most cases, it is a 6-1 or an 8-1 at the intersections because those are a little more prone for accidents. Those are generally 6 or 8-1s. But generally, if you travel 32nd and 107th, it's built as a 4-1.
I know, as, the way the ditches are right at the intersection, and I mean, it would be, you gotta take some driver responsibility also, but I mean, that road there, if you cut just a little bit too short, you're driving a pickup and horse trailer with 5 horses, you're rolling. Going towards Betlofs if you turn to go east.
Okay. And right at that intersection, that's gonna be a 6-1. Like I said, all the intersections are either 6 or 8-1s.
I don't know the answer. And I brought it back up for safety issues. I didn't bring it up for hurt anybody's feelings or anything else like that. I just wish we could do something right at the intersection that wouldn't cost a huge amount of money to make it safer. The reaction time and make it safer. I understand we can't put $200,000-$300,000 into this. I just don't feel the very top of that hill is as safe as it could be.
So is it, in your opinion, or what you've been hearing, is it the sight distance is the issue, or is it the 4-1 slope?
I believe it's more.
Or is it both?
It's a little bit of both, but I think that it's the ditch. And I think it's a little bit of both the way I understand it, right, Mr. Bauer?
Yeah, I would say it's a little more priority for the sight distance and reaction time.
Okay. If the commission wanted to, we could throw in another design with an expected cost. But it's going to be, I'm going to say, several $100,000. And I thought at the last meeting, like Mr. Messer had indicated, the design was 55, That's what we were hired to do. The residents kind of verified and vindicated our design that it was to 55. You kind of compromised to be 45. You know, at some point, we got to kind of agree on something.
Because on the end of that road is when it switches to 35, right? Is that the road, the same one?
The road, when you cross the intersection of 35th and 107th, you go about a half a mile, that's when it goes down to 35.
Okay. So it goes
To
from
the highway.
35 to 55 to
Right.
45 to 55? Or does it
Going
switch
north.
in the middle?
It goes 35, 45, and then to 55.
Okay.
But we decided we were gonna change it, so it would be just 45 to the north side of Mr. Loman's.
Okay.
Here's another thing how I feel. I feel if we do absolutely nothing, the landowners are gonna be mad forever. So we need to do
And
something.
you can't say mad, I just think they'll be
Well, I mean,
disappointed. you know.
disappointed.
Yeah.
I mean, we tried to fix the road so it was easier and safer. The perception is it's not, so.
And I haven't heard one landowner say things in like this horrible negative light towards you or Stark County.
Right, but-
they haven't done that. They're just worried about the top of the road for safety reasons. You know, they haven't gone that Danielle or this blah blah
Right.
Jeremy. They haven't done that. They've been very respectful.
Well, I guess only suggestion I can make is we can take a look at it. If we don't have a meeting for another month, winter's knocking on our door, so if we're gonna do something, it needs to be now. And if people will feel more comfortable lowering the hill and the sight distance doesn't change, will that make a difference? I don't know that. We could probably get rid of some of the dirt, Jeremy, and the radius on Huff's side over there and flatten that inslope. You know, we'd have a place we could get rid of this dirt close.
It's still probably not, like you said, not gonna change anything on the road in your site.
Well, I think from a technical standpoint, what we would do is we would actually put a profile that would be 60 or 65. And then sign it to 45. But it's gonna be a really radical change. I mean, it's
gonna be a
you're
steeper
gonna
change.
be grading probably 2,000 feet each side of that intersection now.
Plus to the west too, you'd have to lower that too, wouldn't you?
Right, which.
You wouldn't
there-
have to lower it to the east at all, though. That's plenty low.
Right. It would help, you know, kind of the Betloff intersection or the east side if it got lowered. But the west side, in my opinion, is gonna be a whole lot worse. It's gonna be a whole lot steeper. But that's kind of maybe what they were used to. I think part of the problem is we're fighting this situation where we're used to something and now it's different. I think that's part of it. To me.
I think they're used to
I don't
something-
live out there. I live
Yep.
a few miles away. To me, it's a whole lot safer, but I respect people's opinion that have lived there forever, that it's not any safer. To me, it's obviously safer, but I'm biased, obviously.
Because I really don't think any of them are called about the different thing. All I heard about was sight and vision, or sight and safety.
Right.
You know, I didn't hear about change. I know change is hard, but I didn't hear anything on that. It was just sight and safety.
Right.
And you know, maybe, yep, I mean, I don't know.
Well, go ahead.
I think, in my mind, the only thing, I can't say the only thing, because I understand as much as I understand, would be to engineer that road for 65 or 70, which is gonna cost another bunch of money, but at that point, you have 2 seconds more of visual probably. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we want to beat a dead horse here, but we'll do whatever the commission wants. You know, at the last meeting, it was suggested that there's these perceived knobs on each side. You guys can try that. I'm not
Those
part of
valves are
that.
just gonna get moved over further is all they're gonna do.
What'll happen, I'm, in a small way, I wish you guys would try that. What would happen is you'd have, on 107th, you'd have little pockets of worse sight distance if you were to carve off these little knobs. And they're really not knobs, it's just the vertical curve there, but. So I'll take whatever direction you guys give us, but there's not an easy solution.
I see a little bit more of a, I mean, it looks more of like a plateau, kind of. I see a little bit of a knob on the north side. I don't see one on the south side. If you go and drive way back and sit back by Betlof's, you don't see it. I mean, at all. Like I
Right.
said, you see one, my directions are right. See one on the south.
Right.
And that's what the plateaus are for, so
Right.
Yep.
you got the sight distance. When you're here, you can see that car coming.
Yep,
Braking distance, lots of factors figured into design.
yep. And I'm not an engineer. I mean,
I'm not either.
I just want it to be safe for everybody that lives there, because once we get this road done and all of a sudden it's affected and sight and you have a pavement, we all know no one's gonna drive 45. I mean, we all know that you could have a patrol sitting there all the time and the next day they're still gonna try it.
Right. Yeah, I mentioned at the last meeting, no one's gonna drive 55.
No,
But I think the intent was to get it to be speed limit of 45, so maybe they drive 50 or 55 in all reality. I mean, this is probably counterintuitive, but that road has really good sight distance. People are gonna drive 65 because it's safe and they have a sight distance, drive 65. Hopefully, if it's posted at 45, they drive 50 or 55. So, yeah, I don't think I'm answering any questions. You guys have to give us some direction. I have full confidence no one has proven our design wrong. I think you could leave it as is at 55, leave it posted at 45 like you suggested or made a motion at the last meeting. But if there's lingering concerns, we can try to address them.
What was it that you wanted to say, Neil?
Well, I don't think we can make a decision on what we're doing today because we don't have enough information if you want to change it. I'm fine with the way it was set up and the compromises that we did. Now, if we want to go out and spend money and have it re-engineered and then get it bid, that's fine, but I don't think we can sit here today and say, go do the ditches and the approaches at 4-to-1 rather than 6-to-1. And not know what the cost is. I don't think that's responsible either. You know, we talked, and I talked to Al about these, you know, flashing signs rather than just posted it at 45. There's those electronic ones where you know, they're scattered out throughout the county and the city where when you come in, whatever speed you're going, it flashes, it tells you. That might be an additional safety measure maybe we could implement. I just think it's a much better road than it was 6 months ago. So that's where I'm at.
I agree.
Now, when were you looking at to pave this road? Are we talking next year or the following year?
We're gonna try and push this next legislative session to see if we can get some additional funding out of the DOT or out of their budget to try and get it paved. If not, we're gonna save up, we'll have to save up for it. Hopefully the buckets will fill and we can get some funding that route. But, I mean, the concept of the bypass is, it's a no-brainer that needs to be there to get around the east side of town. I was on the bypass committee. We looked at that. Oil slowed up. They forgot about the east side and we got the one on the west side. But it's a great idea to get it because there's a lot of traffic that will use that load and avoid coming through town. So that's kind of what our goal is to try and see if we can get some special kind of funding for it.
so do you think then more trucks will take that route?
Oh, sure.
So
By
that's,
rights
I
now,
mean,
if you leave the east side of Dickinson, you're supposed to go out to exit 56, come around the bypass and get on by RDO. This way they cut off multiple miles. So.
you know, with an increasing traffic like that, I just don't think we can put a Band-Aid on it with increasing traffic on that road. I just think that we're just not being fair to those people. And fair to the people that don't understand the road that are gonna be traveling it and using it as a bypass. But that's That's my opinion. So I kind of agree with Commissioner Messer. I mean, we just can't make some kind of decision today on everything.
Go ahead.
We need some kind of numbers on filling those ditches on the, especially on the east side. And I mean, I know, I understand this is taxpayer money and we don't want to put another, it's hard for me to put money towards life if that road isn't safe. That's what's hard for me. How much is a life worth?
I just don't think we can label that road as not being safe. It's not perfect. No road is perfect. One of the other questions I have, Jeremy and Al, would be, so let's say we are successful in getting some DOT funding. 2023 is certainly unlikely that it would be paved. It would be probably a 2024 project. If we have 18 months to 24 months of experience on that road and you know, where the feedback and whatever is that maybe what we're talking about is an issue, at the time of paving, could we make amendments to that road at that point?
Probably not to the grade line.
Okay.
Well, you could, but it would be significant change. But yeah, I guess you could do the grading as part of the paving if that's what you're suggesting, perhaps. Yeah, you could let it sit a year and a half, and then if there is a redesign of it, you can incorporate that into the paving.
Well, that might be an option, but.
Can we make sure that we have, I mean, until all this is said and done, can we get the signs up? Like the stop signs and
Well,
the
the project has a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit sign through it during construction. So if they're driving, I've had the truck rig come out and stop, you know, I mean, just sit out there because it is 25 during the construction.
Okay. Okay.
And you put your signs up when the grass is seeded.
Yeah. To get topsoil on and so, but if we're gonna do a change, I would like to, if Jeremy could do that. I mean, I think we still have time this fall. God, I hate to put that whole project back together and rip it all back out in the spring.
Yeah.
I would hope, I mean, if maybe Jeremy could do a quick design or something, and then maybe we can do a change order to this project and get it done this fall yet, if we're gonna do anything, but I know it's getting kind of messy here, but I don't have the right answer, but if we're gonna do something, we should do it now. If not, let's leave it the way it is. That's.
Well, I guess they just need at least a month since we don't have any numbers. You know, if it's the ditch or if it's something.
Right, we're running out of more time.
I mean, we could run through the numbers fairly quickly. I'm not sure if the commission want to have a special meeting, you know, later this week or early next week or something, but
We can do that.
Yeah, I guess we can throw some numbers together, but what we would know, our team would need to know is what are you guys looking for? Are we looking to, because we talk in engineering terms, which is to our fault sometimes. Are we trying to get 3 more seconds of sight distance? Or design it to 60? I mean, it goes back to kind of the numbers and the standards, and we all have these kind of feelings of what it should be, but we gotta put those feelings into actual numbers.
I guess if we're gonna change it, I'd be looking more like a 65 to 70 design, I guess, for miles per hour. I mean.
So, Dean, we'll go through a few different scenarios. We'll go, because it really doesn't take that much longer. We'll go a number for 60, 65, and 70, and we'll show you that it's going to change a lot of things, but we can put those numbers together. We'll give you 3 different options. Either essentially leave it as is, design it for 60, 65, or 70. That make sense for you guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And I appreciate it. I mean, I appreciate this time. And I know they all do out there also. Jeremy, if you just want to go into your,
Sure. So, maybe I'll just,
do we have to take a vote on that?
Are we spending money?
Yeah. So I suppose we're gonna have to pay them for their time to redo the,
To do the design.
What?
We're gonna have to pay them to redo the design, do options.
I'd make that motion, then they go ahead and do that what he had planned, what Jeremy had planned on it, the 3 different scenarios.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote, Commissioner Franchek?
Aye.
Under discussion, do we have an idea what this, what this will
Sorry.
cost us?
I would say, a couple $1,000 or less.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Franchek?
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh?
Aye.
Commissioner, oh, Jesus. Messer?
Aye.
Commissioner Zander?
No.
Chair votes aye, motion carried. Okay, Jeremy, go ahead.
Okay, so getting to, our project is a brief update, 32nd 107, I think we've kind of talked about that quite a bit. The other portion, they're finishing with approaches and topsoiling, so they're kind of in the finishing stages. We did have a pay estimate, which is included in your bills of roughly $500,000. So that project, depending on what happens in the next few days here, the bid portion should wrap up here. I think the weather might catch us, but in the next couple weeks here, perhaps. The project before that, 83rd and 86th, a little update from the summary sheet. We did have a final inspection with the DOT. That project has been approved and met the engineering standards, so the DOT has approved that project. We still have to do the final documents and final paperwork with the DOT, but construction is complete and accepted by the DOT. Next project is a design project on 131st. Plans are in. The DOT has reviewed their environmental document, so everything is approved. We don't know if we have secured a December bid opening or not, but it is scheduled for the next bid opening, whether that's December or January bid opening. So that's the status on that project. Other than that, that's about all I really had for the commission. So any questions on that or anything else?
I guess I wanna step back a little bit to know how soon you can have your bids
Oh, yeah.
ready, so we know when we should set our special meeting.
For the redesign options. Today is Tuesday. I mean, we can get someone on it. We could have a meeting probably Monday next week.
The 7th?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Is everybody okay with the 7th?
The only comment I have that is my office is setting up for the election that occurs on Tuesday. So we have to go to all the locations and everything like that for the 7th.
If it's a single
your
item
office.
special meeting, we could, I mean, I don't necessarily believe it would be required, Karen, for you to be here for that.
Okay, as long as the commission's okay with that, then.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't wanna push it out a whole lot further because, like, time's gonna start running away from us.
Okay.
Okay, the 7th at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
So Monday, the 7th at 9 o'clock, we'll have the special meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for bringing that up, Bernie. Mike Noyce, Highlands.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Couple design engineering projects we're working on. First, 83rd Avenue Southwest, 8 miles north of Richardson. Again, this is a bridge replacement with a precast box culvert. The final environmental document is still pending SHPO, the State Historical Preservation Office concurrence. waiting on that and also core permit approval so we can submit the final document and, get a bid letting date, hopefully this spring, and so construction most likely will not be until 24. The other project, is the 3 bridge removals and replace with low water crossings. We, the cultural resource and wetland surveys are complete. We anticipate the reports in a couple weeks, and then we can submit to the Corps, and SHPO concurrence can be sent out. And the solicitation of view letters were mailed out this week, and our preliminary surveying is happening right now as we speak. And the other construction engineering project is down on 80th Avenue Southwest, southeast of Richardson, and that project's on hold. It was bid in June. Central Specialties was the low bidder, and completion date is October 1st, so it's on hold till this summer. That's all I have in my reports. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, we're gonna move down since we have to start the public hearing at 10. So we're gonna,
Does Mr. Krebs wanna, I don't know.
oh, did you want to speak, Mr. Krebs, today? Sure.
I just see I see it in the packet, so I didn't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I always have the information.
Yeah, there's, I could just.
sorry about that.
Oh, that's no problem. I'll just give you a quick update. As far as the wetland mitigation, we haven't heard back from the Corps yet on that report we sent in. But we're anticipating needing to monitor it again next year. The Highway 10 and 116th intersection, we're working with Aldo, like we mentioned before, to put together application for HSIP funding for a roundabout in that location. And that'll be submitted, that's due by the end of the year. And then also I'm just working with Al to try to finalize where we want to do a chip seal project probably for 2024 on the paved roads east of town. So not a lot of updates yet, but does anyone got any questions?
No. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry for skipping you. I guess we can take, I don't think we have time to bring, well, planning and zoning.
Maybe we could
Maybe we,
maybe we get split, that county right-of-way issues, is that gonna take much time?
yeah,
That might take a little longer.
yep, a little longer.
Okay.
The agent ARPA one won't take, I don't think.
The county agent ARPA discussion, can we get that done?
I think so.
Okay, well, let's go to the county agent ARPA discussion. I know that was put on the agenda with the COLA.
Yeah. So I can probably have Lana jump in here as well, but just to get clarification on that payment compensation, our arrangement with the extension service and NDSU is different than our traditional typical employee. And so we need to clarify, the way it works now is 2 individuals over there, Kurt Freilich and Holly, are paid directly by the state NDSU, and then they send us a bill for 50% of that amount. And so therefore, we just need to clarify so there's no misunderstanding of our position of how we're handling just those 2 individuals. And so.
And Commissioner Messer and Michaela's there too.
They're
Michaela's
county
paid
employees.
by the county, and so Michaela and Dixie got their ARPA
Okay,
payments this last pay period.
okay, thank you. I think they should be treated as part-time employees like we did everybody else. Since,
Part-time or full-time, they're full-time employees.
but we pay them
But they don't get paid by us anyway.
They get paid by us 50%.
Reimbursement.
Yep, reimbursement.
But that doesn't mean we're, I mean,
They're not in our actual like payroll. The only thing that we pay under our actual payroll is their cell phone allowance.
The other thing that probably needs to be looked at is statutorily who has authorization over their budget, because if they're a state agency, I don't know that we have authorization to deal with their budget much, so I need to probably take a look at that as well, because that's becoming an issue in other ARPA funds, so.
And I don't think there's a rush here, so it's not a decision. If we had clear, concise information, you wanted to make a decision today, you could. If you want to delay it until the next meeting, that's fine too. Because originally we had talked about potentially making these payments end of year anyway, so I don't think there's any issue with us getting clarification, so we do it right.
Okay, instead of tabling, let's just, for the record, that it gets put on the next meeting in December. So do you need a motion on that?
I'll just add it to December's agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Was there, are we done with that? Was there any discussion about, at last meeting, we were told that social service zone employees were being considered for this ARPA. Is that something we're still talking about?
Yeah, Attorney Weir and I are working on it, so it's a little more complicated.
Who's working on it?
State's Attorney Pat Weir in Pierce County. So should have a legal opinion on it by December.
Okay. Do you know then, is the state, because I keep hearing that the state is going to take care of those people?
No.
I don't know. I guess I'm not looking at what the state's doing. I'm looking at what the counties can legally do.
Okay.
The counties can legally give up the ARPA, can legally spend the ARPA money for COLA, even if it's for the zone.
That's not necessarily true, and that's not what Pat Weir found, which is why it's becoming a very complicated issue. And because Billings County is the host county where all of the payroll for the zone runs through, it's becoming an issue for them. So I've been working with him on it. But
good, and thank you. And the only reason I bring it up is because I was, information was given to us, I think, at the last meeting that all of the other zone counties were all in favor, we're gonna do this, and they were just waiting for Stark County to ante up. And so
The counties, just so you understand, the counties in our zone, not all the other zone counties in North Dakota.
I'm referring to Stark County, or our zone.
Okay. Dunn County did agree, Hettinger did agree, Golden Valley did agree, so we were just waiting on Billings County. So that's where the holdup is now.
Okay.
So everybody in our zone did agree to do it, but now the holdup is in Billings County.
Amanda, I'm guessing this is something that'll come back up in December's meeting. I'm kind of waiting for Marcia for directions too on what she wants to do, so I figured it would come back up in December. Do you want to do our dinner? I'll get there.
We have to wait right till then.
1 minute.
Watch, we have 1 minute.
Yeah.
I know some of the other counties already did that like a year ago or so with the ARPA funds. So do you have those other counties and zones that already did it, Amanda?
I don't, and I guess I don't know how they did do it. It'll be something, like I said, that Mr. Weir and I are working on, because when the zones took over, there was a statute that preempted the county's budgeting and essentially prohibited us from expending money to the zone employees. So it's kind of a messy legal situation. So like I said, Pat and I are working on it.
Okay, we can start the public hearing on the delinquent tax properties. Can I find them?
It's after the engineers.
Okay, that we have all the legal descriptions, the delinquent taxes in the minimum value. Karen?
So these values, these minimum values were established and approved by the commission. This is just the opportunity if any of the governing bodies of any of the taxing districts or public has any comments or et cetera on the minimum values that were set by the county at the last meeting.
Are there any questions on the minimum values that were set?
So the new ones we've, the top, which are the new parcels this year, Karen?
Most of the ones that I would say are more on top, the bottom ones, the bottom 5 are old ones that we had, and I think the lot 3, block 9, was that the one that's in kind of the middle of town, Natalie, that you know of?
It's over by St. Lance Church.
Yep. And then going from Belfield up, original plat of Belfield up, I think are new ones.
Yeah, I think the 2 Belfield ones were carryovers, correct?
No, Belfield purchased their stuff
So
that was on for last
year. So the 2 under Belfield are new.
Yes, as far as I know, those are new.
Okay.
And where's the Wolf's Edition?
Gladstone. That one's Gladstone. Yeah.
And Natalie, the Sundance Cove subdivision?
That's over by Fluffy Fields, north of Fluffy
Mm-hmm.
Fields.
Okay.
Is that the retention? Is that the retention pond, or is this a separate?
That's a retention pond.
Okay. So the 1 of 7 in Sundance Cove is a retention pond. The 2 in Painted Canyon, I believe, are also retention ponds.
Yes.
Okay. And then the 2 up on top, they're just odd lots out in the middle of a summer fallow field. In Schnagel's land. In Schnagel's land. Yeah. Okay. I'll move that we accept the minimum value as recommended on the parcels as described.
I'll second that.
Okay. We got a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Commissioner Messer.
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh.
Aye.
Commissioner Franchek.
Aye.
Commissioner Zander.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carried. Okay, we will go into break until 9:20.
9:20
10:20.
tonight.
Yeah. I'm still on the old time.
Next week.
9:25. Yes. Okay, we'll bring the meeting back to order. And also, I did not close the public hearing for the delinquent tax properties before the break, so could I get a motion to close that public hearing, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Post. Motion carried.
Could we backtrack a little bit?
First, we need to go to one thing because Amanda has a court hearing,
Okay.
and then we'll backtrack. The county right-of-way issues, fence and political signage.
So, if it's okay with the chair, I'll bring up the fence one first.
Okay?
Okay. So, we have an issue that I think about a year ago, at the end of Palm Beach Road. A property owner, Mr. Splickles, who is here today, purchased the property and put up a fence that ends up, according to the survey here that you see, is actually on county right-of-way. And it was brought up, we did send out a letter to Mr. Splickle that it was in the right-of-way, and I believe Amanda can correct me, but basically gave him a deadline to move the fence. Subsequent to that meeting, I did visit with Mr. Splickle a couple of times. He gave me his reasons for having the fence where it was, including trying to line up with the private property to the south. And it kind of, be honest with you, it just kind of got lost in the weeds in the last 12 months. And it's resurfaced, and I believe the adjacent property owner is here, or was here, resurfaced with the intent that they may want to put up a fence, and they would knowingly know now that where the right-of-way is. And so we need to, as a commission, decide what we're going to do with this. And I'm open for discussion, comments, any of that kind of stuff, so.
When was this, Mr. Splickle is the one that has the fence?
Correct.
Could you come up, please? Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. When did you put up this fence, or did you have any?
Have him introduce himself.
I'm Robert Bob Splickle.
Okay.
And I own the property that Neil mentioned on the end of Palm Beach Road. You know, at the end of the Palm Beach Road, it turns into a private drive. And if I may explain why we put up that fence, you know, because when we bought the property, there was a tree row along the street or the road, and a partial fence probably from years ago. That's an old subdivision. Anyway, we tore that out and we put grass or lawn in, and we start noticing that people were coming in and flipping a U-turn, end of the road, dead end, and they kept driving further and further into our property. And, you know, I just got fed up with it. Al knows about it. I've complained to him, and he put up a dead end sign a couple blocks, and it really didn't help. And so one day I said, you know, we got to do something. So we put up a fence and a border, and like Neil mentioned, that it lines up with Armstrong's fence a little bit to the south of us. So it's basically where the fence was, you know, so if that was on the right of way, so it was. But I can tell you it worked. The fence, you know, we used to have people during the oil boom. You would not believe the traffic we put up with down there. And people parking, coming on at midnight, 1 in the morning, driving around. You know, it's kind of discerning to have that kind of traffic in front of your house at late hours. So we put up the fence, and it did. It kind of took away that turnaround zone.
When did you put up the fence then?
About 6 years ago. And it's, if you've seen it or not, it's just kind of a wrought iron type fence. It's open, it don't block snow, it's just a nice looking fence. You know, neighbors, most of them are neighbors, like it, and gotten a lot of compliments about it. So
Who did you contact 6 years ago when you were putting up the fence with the county or city?
Nobody. No, I just said I just put it up about where it was, and
ouch.
You know, I think our situation's a little unique, you know, because we're on the end of the road, and we have to deal with all this traffic. I just don't think it's, you know, I have to kind of protect the value of our home.
So since then, what's transpired or what's going on now then?
Pardon me?
So since then, what's transpired or what's going on or what's?
Well, I like I said, it's been there 6 years already. And I don't know what the problem is. I believe it's, it's just more of a neighbor issue that kind of been forcing the county probably into this decision. And I don't know, I would just like to request some kind of waiver or exemption or something, that allow us to, leave the fence there.
Could I?
Go ahead.
And so I think you mentioned this fence that you erected essentially replaced a decrepit falling down fence. And
yeah, there were some trees there. There were some dying trees, and we had cleaned a lot of that property up. And, never was our intention to put a fence up until we had to start dealing with this traffic problem.
Right.
Now, I suppose I could have planted trees back or put up a hedge or something, but we decided to put up a fence.
So the trees that you mentioned would be the same concern as the fence, but my question may be more for Amanda. Is there any, and I'm fully aware of your property and what you've done, but I kind of feel like, this is almost like a grandfather clause type issue where the previous owners had a fence up, they had trees that gathered rubbish and
So that's, I guess, really up to the county commission. About a year ago, I had drafted a letter. You guys looked at it to send to Mr. Splickle saying, this is in the county right away. You have 20 days to move it. And then fast forward, we're here. I know that my office especially has gotten complaints, I think, from a neighbor, but it's not my decision on how you want to handle it being in the right of way. That's up to the commission. The legal question is, do you have the right to demand that Mr. Splickle move the fence if you choose to? And that answer is yes.
Okay.
I wish the other guy would be here so we could hear the second half of the
Is
story.
there I think he was here.
He was here. He said he might have to leave for work.
Is there excuse me, is there a safety issue here? A visual obstruction that would be a hazard to pedestrians, or
I would probably ask Al that question, or Corey. I don't know.
or is there issues with traffic flow?
No, when you get to the property down there, there's kind of a turnaround on the right-hand side. So when we plow snow, we'd bring the snow down, dump it in the ditch there, so it wouldn't impede people walking or anything else. And I can see his point too, because when you get down there, it's a turnaround. So if you got a big rig, you're probably gonna drive in his grass to make the turn.
And is there something that the county could do to improve the turnaround where you go into the private drive area?
No, because right on the right-hand side is a creek bank. The Hart River's there, so if you get over too far, you go in the creek. So it's right up, turned out that far. And conversations we had is that if, pretty soon everybody's gonna wanna put fences out that far. But, like I said, it doesn't affect what we do as far as maintenance of the street, if that's what you're looking for. It doesn't affect that, and I don't think it affects the traffic flow.
Yeah, and I remember a issue up in the Rush Hour Edition years ago where a similar issue did obstruct maintenance and snow removal and things like that. And the county did force that issue. But I'm sympathetic to you because
Well, I just
it's
don't.
like government is once again pushing itself into people's lives where I just don't think we need to go. If you just put this fence up, no fence prior to that, and you know, that'd be a different story, but the fact that there was a fence there, you, cleaned the mess up, the tree removal, you did that all on your own. I just,
Well, Bernie was down there with us, and Al was down there, and I didn't even think Corey's been down there. So my question is, you know, how are we gonna handle the right-of-way? So if we require Mr. Splickle to spend thousands of dollars to move his fence, and he plants trees where there was trees before, is that an encroachment on the right-of-way? It is, because because we're setting up a little bit of a precedence here either way. Either we're telling people to 100% comply with right-of-way, or we're gonna give you some leeway. Either way, I think you're opening up a can of worms down the road, because the neighbor to the north, who was here previously, actually has trees in the right-of-way, right? I mean, it's almost up to the road. Nice-looking trees, very mature trees. And,
Yeah.
and again, I think Al would say that it's probably certainly not an infringement on what you perform, services you perform down there.
It doesn't affect what we do down there because, like I said, that's the end of the line, we push it off. But I think Steve could correct me if I'm wrong. I believe any trees planted have to be set back 125 feet from the center of the road. There's a policy.
Okay.
But
Well,
I mean,
this
these
is a
trees
very-
were probably grown in there for the last
Yeah,
50
this-
years, 100
this is a
years, or whatever it may be.
Very old tree. It's a very mature,
Yeah.
very good-looking tree.
Yeah.
And so if, you know, let's play this out, we tell Mr. Splickle to move his fence, then Mr. Splickle brings a complaint back to the commission and says, oh, the neighbor's gotta move his tree. I mean,
it never ends.
It never ends. And so are we willing to allow fences all the way up? How much are you in? I can't read that. I was looking to see that. Do you know how many feet you are in? Mr. Prosif's not here today.
The road is kind of at an angle there, so it varies from probably 4 to 10 feet, I guess.
Okay, so at the closest, you're encroaching on 4 of the right-of-way, and in the worst-case scenario, 10?
Yes. There is something though, you know, when we bought that property, part of our property actually runs across the road. We own part of the property that go across is Palm Beach Road. I think you saw that too. And there's a plat easement that probably allows easement through that private property. Is that correct?
There was a missing document, and finally Bob Prosef looked hard enough and found it where the easement for the road is in there. So I'm not quite sure about your property on the other side of the road, but there was a missing document that he did find here at the courthouse where it shows the right-of-way, what the right-of-way was all the way through there, up to that private subdivision.
How far is that easement? You know, that's only what, 66-foot road? Am I reading that right? I mean, so what I'm trying to say is that end of that road there is just kind of messed up there because of the property lines and the easement there. You know, and again, I think our situation's a little unique, being at the end of the road, dealing with all that traffic, you know, that comes down there.
And did the neighbors get told they had to move anything or move a fence, or did they want to build a fence but then were told they couldn't? Because they were in the right of way?
So, and again, I don't want to paraphrase what they said, but the conversation I had maybe last week or maybe the week before with them was they've made a decision now that they want to proceed potentially with putting up a fence. And and the consensus was, or the comment was, well, now we know where the right-of-way is, and so therefore, if we intentionally put it on the right-of-way, then we're not doing it correctly. But then the neighbor, Mr. Splickle, unintentionally puts the fence on the right-of-way, and he gets away with it, you know, kind of deal. I don't want to paraphrase the words, but that's the conversation. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
If I may, I had to deliver this letter, and I honestly don't agree with it. But I think this situation is very unique. If you guys actually go out there and look at it, which Commissioner Messer and Marsh and I did, and what Mr. Splickle did is build off an existing structure And I think anybody with any common sense who put that fence up would agree with Mr. Splickle in thinking that that was his property line. You go out to Palm Beach Road, it's very hit and miss aesthetically, and he's got a beautiful place out there, and I think it would be a travesty to make him take that fence down.
Is the city right away still considered property? Who's the property or the owner of the property on the city right away?
County right.
The county owns that property,
No, on the city right away, the
or
county.
the county right away. Who pays taxes on that? Does the landowner or the person that where his fence is, does he still pay taxes up to the road?
You pay taxes to the middle of the road?
The landowners own to the middle of the road, but then by statute, there's, 33
Right.
feet back, and then the county is by statute given a right of way as well. So that's the statutory
Right.
portion of it.
The property owners on section lines are paying property tax on those section lines.
And then by statute, the county has, certain rights that it can keep those section line, that they, keep those section lines open or keep things off those section lines because they're considered roadways.
And like Mr. Splickle's situation is, I think we take situation like this not as a blanket, but one at a time to look at it. I mean, this is established, it's been there. Did he go about it in the correct way? Maybe not, but I mean, it's been there for 6 years, and if this is a feud between neighbors and not an issue of right and wrong, I guess, I don't know. But I think we can look at this thing individually and not just say black and white, this is what it is.
And legally, I don't know that it matters, but I think, Bernie, that's probably a best assessment as far as, if it's actually impeding county business, county roads, county right-of-way, as opposed to just getting involved in a neighbor dispute, that might be how the commission wants to take a look at it from common sense point of view as opposed to a strictly legal point of view.
When did the letter go out?
Last year sometime, it came up at a commission meeting. You guys all voted on it to approve it and send it out. I think
It was in September. It was
September.
fall.
September of
Okay.
2021, about a year ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know the other gentleman must have to get to work, but I think that we should, I don't think that would make any sense for him to take this fence down. I understand there is rules, and understand there might be other issues with right-of-ways, but
But when the next gentleman decides he wants to put up a fence, that's the next step we're gonna be dealing with.
that's right.
And so, I mean, if he I would supposedly by rights apply for a permit to put up the fence. Isn't that the way it works now with, I mean, Steve could probably answer that. He would have to apply for a permit to put a fence up out there, right?
I'm sorry, Steve Josephson, because that's in the city's jurisdiction, their zoning ordinance applies, and
So,
yes, you do. need-
so he would need to apply for a permit, and at that point, the city would probably say, well, you're encroaching on the county's right of way, so they'd probably deny it. And so we could take it off the hook. Probably not.
Yeah. Well, it is, like you said, I do not want Mr. Splickle to spend whatever it is to move the fence, but, we have to have some forward thinking here in that, are we gonna allow it all the way up on Palm Beach Road?
Well,
Because
let's, why can't we just deal with this issue?
That's exactly what I said, yes.
And then if it has to be further discussed and ordinances and more discussion for future, but in this case, Amanda, what action, if we take no action on this, is it then done with?
I mean, essentially, yeah. You would be the entity to enforce it.
So if
I suppose maybe the private property owner could try to bring a lawsuit, but that wouldn't be for us. That would be a private matter.
Couldn't we, before we make the motion with him, couldn't we set up a meeting with the other neighbor and him just to make sure that everybody is Because, I mean, it's not gonna be fair to this other neighbor that now if he wants to build a fence, he's gonna be told no because it's on county right away.
Well,
And I don't want him to have to take his fence down, but that is not fair for the neighbor for us to make a decision today and then the neighbor's just too bad. I mean, that's not,
So this fence, maybe Neil, do you understand? This fence that the neighbor wants to put in, and we're speaking for him, he's not here, it's right or wrong, do you know where it is or how he wants to do it, or?
Well, and I don't, they just, basically, the comment was, well, we'd like to put up a fence, and if the neighbor's fence is in the right of way, then we think we should be able to put the fence in the right of way. So, I think.
Is that the neighbor whose trees are already in the right of way?
Well, the tree is right by the road, so I haven't surveyed it, so I don't want to make
Well, yeah, okay.
an opinion on that, but, that it's in there, so, yeah, I think we could facilitate and brokerage a deal here, but I just want to bring it so that everybody's aware of what we're doing, so that we're not singling out one way or the other. That's my goal here today.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion, and if it fails, it fails, but, on this particular issue, I think, my motion is to take no action.
And if we took action, I know it probably got to be seconded, but if we took no action and somewhere down the road, can you change that? I agree with Carla. I think it would be nice to hear from the neighbor, but I also am.
Well, I
agree
thought
that
you
don't
guys
want
had
that
heard
fence
from the neighbor.
Well, I'm talking in a public forum. The conversation I had is a one-on-one
Right,
phone
it
call.
needs to be in the public also. And you know what, it's gone for a year, so if it goes for another 6 months or whatever, by the time we,
That's kind of where I'm at. And they more than likely won't get a fence up this year anymore, no more than we're gonna cut down 107. So, but I think it's also important that if someone goes to the city and gets a permit to put up a fence, the city does not come out and do the locates on that. It's up to the private property owner. That's his or her responsibility to make sure that fence goes in the right area. So just so we're perfectly clear on there, even though the fence is permitted.
okay.
so you made a motion, Commissioner Zander, to take no action as of now?
Correct.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion and a second to take no action. Commissioner Zander?
Aye.
Commissioner Messer?
Aye.
Commissioner Franchek?
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, with the understanding that needs to get brought back up in a reasonable amount of time.
Yep, I agree.
That wasn't part of the motion, but that's
Okay.
why I struggled with my answer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
What about the political signage I see there's?
Yeah, that's the second part of right-of-way discussion is, I think we need to set up policy, and Amanda's leaving here now, on the political signs in county right-of-way. Just so everybody who wants to run for office is running from the same page or working off the same book. And, it's political season, and so people get fired up and all these kind of things. And so we've all had the calls. We all drive the roads. We know that there's signs up there in the right-of-way. And so I just open it for discussion,
Do a quick question, and I know Amanda's, but if I recall, there's at one time, and I'm sure there still is, there's some century code language on placement of any kind of sign, political or other, in regards to right-of-ways.
Yeah. So there is statute that Amanda did send it to me in absence of her leaving, and basically it says no person may use any property belonging to or leased by or any service which is provided to or carried on by either directly or by contract the state or any agency, department, bureau, board, commission, or any political subdivision thereof for any political purpose. So the language there would be pretty clear that you know, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. The issue is that there's a difference between Highway 10, and I'll have Al kind of chip in on that, than other county roads because of the right-of-way easement and the actual ownership of the right-of-way. So,
And I agree with that. It's just, I believe that people got petty this year, like by the South Heart. So it was wrong to put any signs up by the gravel pit. You can't pick and choose what years you want to enforce the law.
that's why I'm asking.
And
for
that's
it to
why
be
I'm
moving
glad
forward.
you're bringing this up, because there's been signs put up by South Heart for 50 years or more, and probably every one of us have put a sign up there.
I've never put a sign up any place in Stark County.
You're lucky. But it's just like everybody's put signs up by that gravel pit. I mean, and I even talked to the mayor of South Heart, and he's like, there's never, ever, ever been an issue, ever. And then all of a sudden this year, out of 50 years, is the first time.
And
So we do need some ordinances, because you can't pick and choose. I mean, there was a sign yesterday where this gal got called, she had to move it 2 inches.
Mm-hmm.
It's been up for a month, over a month.
I've had on my personal property, adjacent to Highway 8, I had a sign up, 4x8 sign, 4 feet on my property, 4 feet on the DOT, and the DOT came out and took it down. And so when I went to the DOT, I was going like, whatever. He goes, yeah, I was going to call you, whatever. But it was like, yeah, you could have told me you were on the DOT side, but you had a trespass on my property to take my half of the sign down. So I think we want clarification, so everybody's playing by the same rule book, and that's why I'm bringing it up. It's you know, it's probably too late to enforce something this year because there's a week left, but I think everybody needs to be doing the same thing. And political speech is protected speech.
Yeah, I always understood that you didn't use government property for the purpose of erecting any kind of sign. I mean, you don't see any signs on the county lawn out here or on county buildings, which is referring to the South Heart thing. That is county property. And I got several phone calls, and all I did was I sent a message to Amanda, because I felt that if anybody's going to have to deal with it, it would be her office. And I sent 2, maybe 3 emails to her, not accusing anybody or labeling anybody, and not referencing the people that called me, just that there's signs there. People are concerned that this is county property. They shouldn't be there.
In the last 20 years, have you ever, just to ask, have you ever got a call about signs over there in the last 20 years since you've been a commissioner?
I would say probably not.
So this is the first year?
Yeah.
Okay. Andrew, you want to say something?
Madam Chairman, Commissioners here, I just kind of wanted to address this a little bit on some questions here that I have is, you know, initially, why do we have right-of-ways? Why does the county have right-of-ways? Could this commission please, do you have answers on that, or Tax Director?
Al has a, sorry.
I'd like to comment on that. You know, we talked about the right-of-way. Highway 10 from Morton County, Billings County is owned by Stark County. That used to be a state highway. The state highway owned the right-of-way. Now, when we get to these county roads, we have an easement for a road. So, and like we talked earlier, the landowner pays to center the section line there. So that's not the issue. And it's Highway 10 is where it's owned by the county. Everything else, unless it was bought, the easement was bought or the right-of-way was bought, it's still owned by the landowner to the center of the section line. So as far as I know, the only thing that would be really in concern is Highway 10. And if they're off Highway 10 or out of the right-of-way, it's not an issue.
Okay.
And furthermore,
since I've been here 19 years, there's never been an issue with a sign in any election that I'm aware of. So,
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Andrew.
Madam Chair, commissioners on here, well, why do we have the right-of-way that is for utilities, essentially? For public services, for, you know, emergency stuff so we can see around corners and roads, things of that nature. Am I incorrect? Okay. So moving forward with that, the issue I see here on this is it's a private property rights and a freedom of speech rights. Because those individuals pay property taxes to the center of the road, which we've already established. Now, we do have Highway 10, which is kind of a special situation on there. But when you own that property, you should be allowed to speak however you want on that property. And going back to like the fence issues and stuff, the reason we have a right-of-way is so you can put utilities in to the surrounding neighbors so you don't interfere with your neighbors on getting services, you know, be it water, internet, electrical, and to utilize repair of those services. So if there's a sign or if there's a fence in the way and there needs to be repairs or something going through, it has always been the impression of the landowners that that may get destroyed. If they can't go around it, they will destroy it. But right now with political signage, we have an issue where those people, those individuals that are reporting signs in the right-of-way are getting benefited. They get their signs removed by city workers or county workers are removing these signs for the people running in these positions. And so we've created this atmosphere where complaining has become politically beneficial. Now, those property rights, they go all the way to the center of the road. They pay taxes on that. Now, there's certain things you can't interfere with the road. You can't interfere with your neighbor's rights for sewer, water, electricity, and those things that the right of way is there for. It doesn't mean that the city or the county owns that land. That is still the property owner's land. And they have their First Amendment right to speech, protected speech, including political speech. Now, on the way over here, just from my office, just north of Interstate here, I've seen beer ads, Blue Hawk signs, business ads, realty ads, all these in the right-of-way. But for some reason, we only have selective enforcement of political ads. And not only just political ads, not entirely political ads, but political ads that get complained about. And that's it. If no one complains about your ad, no one's going to do anything about it.
Except the city, if your sign is in the boulevard, they will take it down. They'll leave the realtor ads and everything else, but the city will take political signs down if it's in a boulevard area.
Commissioner Marsh, correct. But yeah, if you have that sitting right next to a Blue Hawk sign supporting or a Packers or, forgive anyone who has a Viking sign out in the boulevard.
Beer and Blue Hawks are not a political purpose.
Right.
And the statute specifies political purpose.
Yes, it does.
You're spot on the section line roads, that it's private property to the middle of the road. The complaints that are coming in that we're trying to address so we can deal with it in the future, deal with 99.9% Highway 10. And as Al just mentioned, the county owns, whether it's in some cases 50 either side, 100 foot. I think where I live, it's 100 foot on either side of the center line is county property. And so I'm in with protecting political speech, and no one's going to private property rights me. But the fact of the matter, we have a statute, and how do we want to deal with it in the future? That's why I brought it up.
Okay, Madam Chair, Commissioner Messer, to address that on there, we have an issue here of political speech being promoted on public lands in the past. We have a history of that. We have a school bond that went through twice where we had political signage on public property. Also, they violated the ordinance that prohibits political signage within so close to a voting location. We did nothing to enforce that. So we have a history of non-enforcement.
And I appreciate that, but I'm trying to deal with what we have control of. Bernie's spot on. Certain subdivisions, you're right. So in certain subdivisions, the boulevard still is owned by the property owner, but the vast majority of them, the private property starts at the edge of the boulevard and goes to the property owner. And so if there's a sign or something in the Boulevard, it's actually city property that is required to be maintained, because if you don't cut your grass, they're gonna cut it for you and bill you. So he's right and you're right, whereas if I decide to put a shed on top of utility easement, it's an MDU easement, and I do that at my own risk. If they gotta come in and replace or repair the gas line, they are free to destroy my shed. So I wanna deal with what the county has, because I can't control what the city does. I can't control what school districts do. I want to deal with that, and it's primarily Highway 10. So if you have a comment in regards how we should either allow or not allow that, I'm all ears, because I'm in on political speech, it's protected. But the statute says you can't do political purpose on county public-owned property. So how do we deal with that?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Messer, for one, I do believe that Stark County has law enforcement jurisdiction over the city as well, so I do believe that that is an issue when we talk about those locations that are being put on there and violating ordinance of North Dakota Century Code. With Highway 10 in general, you know, you address that the DOT has something against highways on there. You know, they do have written in North Dakota Century Code that you have to be so far away from a highway.
Well, the DOT controls Highway 8 and Highway 22 in our county. They don't control Highway 10. We control Highway 10 right away. Or am I missing your point?
With that, well, DOT would be Highway 85 and
Or 85,
Highway 22
and Highway 8.
and things of that nature. So those are also, DOT would come out, because I know this has been an issue with the sign for the fairgrounds. It came up as an issue then. But far as Highway 10 moving off, I don't see this as just an issue for Highway 10, because this has been going on in lots of other areas around there, not just Highway 10. If we want to address just Highway 10, something that's been there grandfathered in, if that is county property that's always been used for political free speech, so you can use that as a forum to speak, just like anyone can come into this building and speak, use right of free speech. Now, if it doesn't violate road conditions or being able to do utilities or snow removal, anything of that nature, that's not a safety concern. I don't see why that would be prohibited on county property. Now, we're just addressing Highway 10 there. Now, the boulevards, you're talking about removing from the boulevards. Now, you know, you're saying that the boulevards are not owned by the property owner. They do not pay taxes on the boulevards that is city-owned?
Your property in most subdivisions in Dickinson, and it changes from subdivision to subdivision, most properties, from the inside of the sidewalk to the edge of the curb is city boulevard. Your property where the pin is set actually starts at that point. Now, whether it's assessed in property taxes or I don't know, but I would suspect that the city is trying to tax you on it. I don't know. I'm not going to dive into that.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Messer, on that, you also addressed that individual needs to maintain that property that isn't theirs. They have to maintain city property without reimbursement?
Yes. Same way over on Highway 10 East, the new East Villard project. The DOT came in and they put their fences 100 feet from each side, and they're expecting all the businesses to mow the grass and maintain the ditches.
So wouldn't that be a property rights issue right there as well, though?
I'm all in on that.
I am too. I'll come here again and argue on
I've
that.
expressed my frustration, but I'm looking at the sheriff, and I don't think the sheriff is going to come down 22nd Street or whatever and pull signs out of boulevards. I just don't see that happening. So it is a city issue.
And our road department will not either.
And our road department's not going to do it either.
As my portfolio, I'm not going to waste my road people.
I think the point we're trying to get to is, are we going to acknowledge that we're going to allow signs in Highway 10? The complaints that I get is the person who owns the land adjacent to the right-of-way, who has no ownership of the right-of-way on Highway 10, a sign goes there, and that the impression is that that individual who owns the adjacent property is supporting a particular candidate. Okay, that's where it goes. And that particular person cannot go out there because he doesn't own it. He can't go out there, or she can't go out there and remove that sign because they don't have they don't own that property.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Messer, just for clarification, are you saying that sign is on private property or public property?
No, it's on the public property. It's
public property or on private property with right-of-way?
It's on county-owned property, Highway 10.
county-owned property, that would be, boy, that's a hit or miss on that one. If you guys
Yeah,
want to
so
use
that's why
that
I-
as a public forum,
That's
but what
why
I'm
we're
trying to
having this
address is
discuss-
private property. The right-of-way should not
agree.
prohibit someone from being able to put anything they want on there as long as it is a temporary structure, doesn't interfere with utilities.
That's
That
not
is
what-
my
let's-
main thing.
Let's focus on.
If we want to
highway.
address public property can be addressed as either no one, or we open it up as a public forum.
Right.
But the thing is, we still have to follow, Century Code.
Yes,
So I mean, no
Century
matter
Code's
what
right
we
here.
decide, what
Century
we
Code
decide
says
to
it's
talk
a-
about, we
it's a
still have to follow
misdemeanor.
Century Code, and that's,
Yeah, it's
that's
a
what we have to
misdemeanor
do.
per sign. It's not just a misdemeanor, it's a misdemeanor per sign, right? And then, road department, we've just said, we don't want the road department out there instead of blading roads, removing signs. We don't want the sheriff's department out there. So are you gonna have a vigilante committee go out there, a posse go out and remove signs? I don't think so. I think we just need to publicize it and make sure everybody knows, because I would guess that, a lot of times people don't know what
Right.
the real
So
is.
when they get their packet and they're running for an office, it should be right in there that this is Century Code.
Maybe.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I'd be all in
You know, and for someone to put up their signs somewhere, no matter where the signs are, I mean, say you put a sign up, Commissioner Messer, and you were 5 feet away from my land, for me to have the worry about the fact that, oh God, people are gonna think I'm supporting you. That's, I mean, part of it, we gotta be careful. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, part of it's on the, we gotta follow law, but people don't need to be quite so petty either.
Well, you're right in that this year is different animal than the vast majority of the years. But if someone asks the question, we should have a hard,
I agree,
definitive black and white answer and not get into the gray area. And I'm focused on Highway 10. That's where I'm focused.
And I think people would appreciate that we have a solid, maybe we can make a committee. Andrew, you can join it. I mean, we could have a solid.
Well, we have a
for-
statute. I think we should just, my thing is, I think we should follow the statute.
Yes.
And a great idea, when you go to the auditor, I don't know how that would affect the statewide races, because if someone wants to put up a Rick Becker or John Hoven sign, do they get notified? I mean, I don't know how that works with the auditor, Karen. They don't file any paperwork with you, do they?
They do not. I think that it would make it much easier for my office. As I know everybody here says they get calls, but I can promise you probably don't get as many calls as I do about political signs. If the commission just agrees that we're going to follow Century Code and Highway 10 is just going to be on no political signs, doesn't matter what it is, and we'll move forward with that, because I think that picking and choosing which election year we do or don't allow political signs is getting super messy, so.
Well, we can't say, we don't allow any political signs on Highway 10. We just gotta make sure to do the Century Code so they're not put in the wrong spots.
In the right of way.
In the
Yeah,
right of way.
and any of the, right, but it's mainly Highway 10 that I've been also getting the phone calls about. And I mean, the county only has control over the county property. It doesn't have control over any personal. So I just need to know that the commission is going to back what it says about county property and not having political signage and move forward with that, because I don't even know what answer to give people when they call me at this point.
And that's why we have 2 years. That's why I said committee, because then you could, there's Century Code, which yes, and then there's property rights, personal property rights, and I think that's something that could be discussed.
But that's already addressed. So if you own a piece of property, you can put up any sign that you want, unless the DOT is involved or you want to promote an ad for having a fairgrounds. But but I just think that we need to follow the Century Code 16-1-10-2 when it comes to Highway 10. And that's what I would like to see us do. I don't know if we need to do an action on that. I'd love Bernie's idea of putting it in every information packet that goes out to the candidates, photocopy that, highlight it, do whatever you have to do. That way everybody's playing off the same playbook.
Would it be fair to the commission to say that maybe you establish some sort of, I don't know if you spoke to Amanda about this, but if one of your signs is placed, I don't want to see people getting misdemeanors for somebody else placing somebody's sign there.
Let me add a caveat to that, please.
Yes.
I agree with this 100%. I don't think there should be political signs in the right of way of Highway 10. We will not be citing people for putting signs there because we don't know who put that sign there. Certainly, a political candidate is responsible for their sign, but someone could grab one of my signs, one of your signs, whoever, and stick it wherever they dang well please. So we would certainly contact whoever the candidate is and ask them to remove their sign. And if it's not removed within a certain amount of time, maybe we would then take action, remove it ourselves, whatever. But the last course of action would be to cite somebody.
Yep, I agree.
And I just want to establish that if something is placed there, somebody calls me and says this person's sign is in the right of way, that we inform that person that that sign needs to come out of the right of way and have, you have 10 days to remove your sign and go from there instead of this, well, I'm not doing it, and then it winds up on the road department. That's my only thing.
Well, the statute doesn't say 10 days, but I think it's common courtesy, call the candidate and say, hey, there's a sign over here. You need to get it removed, and you do it at the earliest possible convenience. You don't have to leave the doctor's office to go take it. You just do it at the earliest convenience.
But you don't think the commission can establish so many days so that way I can tell them?
No. I don't know. I think it would be tough, but.
I thought Century Code dealt with that too.
No, there is no time limit on it. It's just, you can't do stuff for political purpose. At least my reading, I'm not an.
And that is right, to where you have some people and you tell them, you can tell them, okay, only signs can go here and here and here. And the signs, it's a misjudgment, it's an accident. It's not like some of the signs get put out in a certain spot on purpose.
Yep. Okay, do we need a motion? Do you have any other comments? Do we need a motion on this? I don't think so. I think we.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I would just like to also place in, if you address something, not just political signage, but also all the other signage that's out there, because I don't like the distinction that political signage is in its own subcategory, where if I just want to promote my favorite football team, if I want to promote my property being for sale, then I get a buy from this. Personally, I don't like special carve-outs in law, because then it makes things too confusing when someone's trying to abide by the law. So I would like to see something put in, if you're going to come out with a policy, to where all these other things, are not specially carved out. They should be, your freedom of speech for political freedom of speech should be the same as all your other methods of freedom of speech.
And I do believe we have something in the zoning ordinance that that talks about temporary promotions, real estate. You shouldn't, if I list Dean's quarter land adjacent to Highway 10, my sign should be on Dean's property, not in the highway right away. And so we should just make sure we have a clarification there. Because, but you're right.
I do know that the city has special carve-outs for all kinds of stuff of that nature, and that's another issue, but I would like to see that taken care of as well. But thank you, Madam Commissioner, Chairman, Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. So we need a motion on that? Or we're just going to put them, since it is.
I think we just need to establish that here in the next year before we get into the presidential 2024 elections.
And maybe we can meet with the city also, so then that way that there is an insert from the county and the city. And then that way it's all done, and that way it's all done for everybody. And people don't have to move signs around. Okay.
You're talking about feeling fair, though, that you're putting it off to the next election so that you guys don't have to comply with this. But when I go run for election in 2 years, I have to apply for this, huh?
Yep.
Comply with this. You talk about equality.
Selective enforcement.
Yeah.
Maybe if there wouldn't have been so much this year, it would have probably been left alone.
I think it should be applied. It should have to go into effect immediately, not 2 years from now.
So you want people to go around now and.
If they're not, signs are not in the wrong place, they should be taken out, right?
Yeah, but if they're in the wrong place, do we give them notice? It's a week away. Election time.
Well, and the commission said I couldn't put days on
But the law's been there all along, though.
Well, you could have brought this up 2 months ago. That would have been okay.
I didn't have an issue with it.
We're gonna move on to planning and zoning.
Steve?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioner Steve Josephson, County Planner. I just wanted to check, I believe that one of the applicants, Megan Noyce, may be joining us by phone, maybe calling in. But you have before you, it was something that went to the last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting last Thursday, and it was a request to rezone 7 acres from agriculture to rural residential. The applicants wish to, they had already carved out seven acres out of an agricultural piece of property, and in order to develop it, they need to rezone it to rural residential, because ag zoning is a minimum of 40 acres and rural residential is a minimum of 5. So this would be the proper zoning district for that. An issue that came up along the way was that the applicants are currently have been living out there for a number of years, and it's in a single wide, but there's also what appears to be a residential structure on there, and it was actually built in 1960. Before staff, during the review process, staff did contact Ms. Noyce and asked her about that house, and she said that the house is the foundation is in terrible shape. It's uninhabitable. They're using it as an accessory structure right now and storing hay and garden equipment in it. And that eventually their plan is to remove that. During the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting last week, the issue came up. Someone said, well, what if? Well, first of all, how do we know that house is uninhabitable? And secondly, well, what if they build a new house and then fix this one up, and then you've got 2 houses on a residential piece of property? This had spoken to Ms. Noyce and said that during the permitting process, there would be inspections to ensure that house that was out there was uninhabitable, and that was in the staff recommendation. And I've also been talking to the building department about that too. Planning and Zoning Commission wanted us, staff to go out there and check before today's meeting to confirm that house is uninhabitable. I went out there with Blaine Ducar to the building department yesterday, and we walked around it. They are storing hay in there, and as you can see from the photographs, the foundation is shot. And originally the Noyces had thought about renovating this house. And when they got through the cost estimates of it, it was less expensive to just build a new one on this property. Did speak to Mr. Ducard. He said that this is considered an uninhabitable structure. Staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
I know I had brought up this, Commissioner Messer, because of a prior. I was worried about 2 structures being on the same thing when one is going to be built. But as these pictures I could see, it's uninhabitable.
Yeah. And just because it's a residential structure doesn't mean it's a residence, right?
Yes.
My neighbor up there bought the west wing of the Jack's Motel and converted it into a calving barn. Just because it was a motel in town doesn't mean it's a motel out on his house. So
Yep.
it's probably a good use for the structure.
For right now, I think their intent is they want to tear down the structure, but there's a garage that was built onto it later on and keep that. So
makes sense.
Okay. I'm gonna have a motion.
I move the Stark County Planning and Zoning recommend approval of RZ 13-22 for Chance and Megan Noyce rezoning petition from ag to rural residential as meeting the goals, objectives, and implementations strategies of the Stark County Comprehensive Plan, and also meet the requirements of Stark County zoning ordinance and are in the best interest of public safety and welfare.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and second. Roll call vote. Commissioner Franchuk.
Aye.
Commissioner Zander.
Aye.
Commissioner Messer.
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carried.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'll notify the applicants this morning that you approve.
Thank you.
rezoning.
And Dickinson Library.
So is this what we tabled last month, the funding request?
Yes.
Correct?
Hi.
Hello. I will say that I wasn't completely aware that was going to be on the agenda, so I'm glad I was paying attention to your agenda. Okay. Regarding that request for the library, and I do have other things that we'll speak to later if they need be, but I will remind you again what the goals are with that expansion. It is to get adult materials moved out into their own section and completely out of the children's area of the library. It is to provide an area for teen services that is separate from kids. It is to provide an area where STEAM programming can happen: science, technology, education, math, and art. That's what those are our goals. That's what we're looking at. And we're asking you, I've heard it said that it's really only the bookmobile that supports Stark County. I think a lot of you know and would agree at this point in time that that's not true. We have Stark County residents that use the library all the time and are concerned and interested in it. We're asking you to support us as we strive to move forward with our vision, most of it geared towards better service to our kids. Thanks.
What is better service? What is your vision, or what is your mission statement or your vision on your better service towards your kids?
It is to continue to provide learning opportunities and access to information, which is what a library's actually legal responsibility is. And I think everyone knows at this point in time that hands-on learning and those kinds of things, what keeps kids busy after school. You know, they get to us after school and they've been required for hours to sit still, be quiet, pay attention. When they get to us, they want to do something active and they want to socialize. And we are working hard, particularly at giving art-type activities and STEAM-type activities that give kids something active that they can do that is still learning-oriented. And we would love to be able to expand the ways that we do that. And in particularly a maker-type space that's designed for active hands-on learning, that's something we would absolutely envision the schools and other community members to be able to make use of too when the library doesn't have it programmed.
And what was your amount that you were requesting? I know you had requested a larger amount and then you moved it down.
Right. So we had thought and had asked that if this board could commit to $300,000 per year, that would be something more similar to what the city is doing. They are not funding one large chunk. They're doing it in a smaller, more doable fashion.
You mentioned something about the library is broken up into an adults-only section and a teenage section and a youth section. How was that when you first started your presentation?
So, if you look at the plans, and I should have brought some and I didn't, for the expansion, as it goes out there, the first thing that you're going to find that's over top of where the staff parking lot is now is an area where that adult nonfiction that is downstairs right next to the children's collections would be moved.
So what's included in the adult section?
Well, adult nonfiction I mean, it would be everything from religion on one end to history on the other and everything in between.
So the books that, like, there's some books out there that people don't agree with that have an age limit of 1 to 5. Will those, I mean, are those going to be moved?
Into an adult section?
Yeah.
Well, those things aren't under consideration right now. We do have a process for that. And
What
right
is the
now, right now,
process?
are we talking about the expansion or are we talking about the book issues? Because I have plenty I can say to you about that too.
Well, I think they go hand in hand. I mean, I know you're not, I'm sorry you didn't get notified, and I mean, it is up to this board what,
I think, as far as the expansion, my position hasn't changed, and that is, I'm glad you're thinking of doing this. The city has access to funds and funding that we don't, primarily the sales tax. We contribute, I believe this year we're gonna contribute about $335,000 towards the operations of the library, to include the bookmobile. And at this point, I just think that I'm not in a position where I would support even the one-time contribution of $300,000. And I just, that's where I'm at.
So the city uses sales tax money to support the library, is what you're saying?
No, they levy
Okay, they
for
levy.
the operations, but they have a lot more leeway on their sales tax for projects, you know, downtown square, all these other kind of things. And so I know
This
that,
board does support projects.
what's that?
This board does support projects. I mean, that is fair to say.
yeah. And I mean, and you were on there before, and we looked at all the projects, you know, that, and we did support some projects. I mean, we just, as a board, we can't support all the projects that are going on in the city, because we also support all of Stark County and the county
For
where
sure.
the city doesn't.
For
So,
sure.
I mean, yes, we do
And
support
yet our
projects.
facility does absolutely support all of the citizens of Stark County.
Yep, I agree with that, but we can't support everything that's where we don't get the sales tax dollars from. You know, there's a limit that we can support.
I'll just pick a couple of the projects we supported. Number one, the park on 10th Avenue East.
Sure.
That's a park that does not come and extract operational monies from us. We supported the Sanford softball complex. That project doesn't get operational dollars from us. And there was, I'm trying to think, the Able remodel of the T-Rex. They don't get but they get some grant or some money for operations from us. Not a tremendous amount compared to the project they did. This is, to me, is kind of different.
The CTE?
CTE, same way.
Right.
So
I'm
that's-
not complaining about
right,
any of the things you've
right,
supported. I hope
right,
you understand that.
Right.
Yeah,
And so
for sure.
just so you understand the logic, at least where I'm coming from on this regard, so.
Commissioner Messer, do you want to make that into a motion?
Well, lack of emotion would have no action, and so that's where I would be, unless you recommend we do a motion. I mean, a motion to do nothing, I don't think is needed. If that's where we're at, I would want to listen a little bit here.
Well, the discussion just ends without a lack of motion.
Right. Just ask for a motion if someone wants to support it, and if it doesn't happen, I think it dies.
Okay. I'd ask for a motion if anybody is in support for the $300,000 per year. I will ask 3 times. Motion for the $300,000 per year.
Can I would just say one more thing from my point of view. This is my last meeting, so I'm not going to burden the next commission by voting for something that might be controversial to the next commission or a financial obligation to a next commission. So, and you guys got a great project, you got a great facility, nobody argues that. But, so I couldn't support it for that reason.
Okay, so there is no motion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I still would like to go back to the 107 project.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Marsh, yes.
I think that maybe we should just put a four-way stop sign up there on the hill in that intersection. We don't have to spend the money on doing the research on it. We don't have to spend the money on redoing the road. Have to probably put a warning that there's a stop sign, stop signs at the intersection and a stop sign down before you get to the hill that says stop ahead. So instead of costing us $200,000 to $300,000, it'll probably cost us $700.
4 stop signs.
So will those stop signs stay up there for when it's paved also then?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea, reasonable compromise. If I'm driving a semi, I'm probably not going to want to stop at the top of the hill, but I think it addresses the issues. It is Al just mentioned it's flat on top.
It's flat on top, yeah.
So I think it's a good idea. Did you make that as a?
I would make that a motion.
I'll second
How
that.
about the speed limit? Are we gonna leave that at 45 then, or what?
I guess that's a separate issue.
I think
I
you should
just kind of
leave it-
feel-
leave
I-
it there for the time being.
Yeah.
You can always address that speed limit.
Later, yep.
And, did you get a second on that?
I did second it.
Okay.
For discussion purposes, I just think that we're kind of doing, I agree with this, but we had already made a decision and the guy that was here to speak thinks that decision was made. We're kind of doing the same thing we did before. I can call him.
Yeah, I'll
and
call
explain.
Mr. Bauer, or you can call Mr. Bauer. I'm sure he'd think this is a step in the right direction.
Okay.
I really do.
Okay. I just think that those people, since we kind of switched and they left,
Yeah, I didn't think about it when we were.
I just think that they would, if they want to come back and talk about it on the agenda, we should allow them to.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, roll call vote. Commissioner Messer.
Aye.
Commissioner, Jesus. Franchek.
Aye.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Messer. Oh,
I get 2 votes? No.
Aye.
Bernie. Yeah. And Commissioner Zander.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carried. Sorry. I think that's it.
I would just
Is-
like one, okay, you can ask.
Is there any input from the public? Does anybody have anything? Okay, Commissioner Messer.
Just one last comment. Mr. Zander made the comment, this is his last commission meeting after 20 years on the commission. And I would, like to thank him for his service. Been a lot of times when I was on that side that him and I didn't agree, but he always gave me his opinion. So 20 years is a long time, even today, even with some of the efforts that Andrew is working on. And I think it's a big thank you is well deserved, and I think we owe that to you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bernie. Can I just take maybe 5 minutes?
Yes.
Thank you. I knew this day was coming quite some time ago, but I didn't realize that this last meeting may be my last chance to thank those people that have helped me over 20 years, and those people that gave me good direction, in most cases, good direction. So I started kind of working on this notes last night, and then I got to thinking a little bit further about, where did this all start? And I started to kind of reflect on my life and my family's history, and And I thought about my grandfather, Joe Wegg, my mother's father. And I recall as a little boy him telling me a story about riding on a boat for about 3 weeks. And as a little boy, he didn't know what that boat was all about. He was with his family. But he talked about getting to come up on the boat deck once a day, and that all the kids and people were given an orange. And I was a little 10 or 15-year-old kid when he was telling me these stories, and he was a great storyteller. And anyhow, he came to Stark County as a youngster, and a family farm was established just east of Leffer. And it was, they had some terribly difficult times, as a lot of people did, especially the ag people during those times. They ended up having to sell the farm because they couldn't make it, and moved to town, moved to Dickinson. And years later, I kind of revisited this story with my grandfather, and I asked him, I said, could have you done anything different? And his comment was, no regrets. No regrets. And so anyhow, now I'll get to what I was intending to do. First of all, I have to thank my 3 sons, Robbie, Steve, and Patrick. None of the 3 live here, but they stay in touch. They watch these meetings on YouTube, and they follow the Dickinson Press articles and things like that. So, they know Stark County has kind of been my thing for quite a few years. But they've always been very supportive. And then I have to thank my wife, Chris, who shortly will be 46 years. And I finally remembered that after asking you. And I often say, how did that happen? And, 46 years is a long time. But I think about how that relationship happened is, we've always been able to talk to each other. I think we've always encouraged each other to follow your dreams or, be successful in your goals. And so I just want to say, thank you, sweetheart. I love you. Okay, that was the hardest part of this. I'd also like to say, for the years I've been here, I've had the opportunity to meet individually with hundreds of county residents and phone calls and this and that. And what I've learned is that the residents are calling or approaching you on the street. They just have some concerns and they have some ideas. And they just are looking and asking you to listen. They want to express their opinions, but they want their elected officials to listen. And I've always thought, there's always going to be difficult issues. But I'd like to think that my position was always, what is the best thing for all of Stark County? What's good for Stark County is where I tried to focus. Maybe not successfully every time, but that was my intent. And then a close friend of Chris's at one time said to me, you should make a list of all the accomplishments and important things that happened in Stark County during your years on the commission. And so I thought about that, and I thought, well, going back to 20 years, one of the first big projects was the building of the county shop. Big step. And George Nodland, Commissioner Nodland, was kind of the commissioner that was taking the lead on that. And we built a great shop. And the final price tag, Al might know, but it was $2 million plus. But the great thing about that building was built and paid for in cash. There was no special assessments, no borrowing money, no going in debt. And so then I thought about the Dakota Women's Correctional Center in New England. And Commissioner Dwayne, I call him Bucky Wolf, he really took the lead on that and developed and worked with our partner counties and made a facility that it's a great facility. It provides good paying jobs in that area of New England and beyond. My first county commission meeting, and I remember this really well, Chet Willer, Commissioner Willer, decided that I should have the personnel portfolio. And I remember his first comment to me was, you're going to get an employee policy handbook done. Stark County never had one up until that point. And so I kind of took the lead on it, but I brought in a lot of staff, went outside and talked to other counties about theirs, and we had a work in progress, and it's continually, and even today, it's a work in progress. But the point being, it's done. Chad again, next told me, he said, you know, we've got practically 100 employees in Stark County. At that time, we had all the social service employees. We did not have an HR department. And so Chet's instructions to me were, you need to put, as personnel portfolio, you need to put together an HR department. And so a long time, took a while, but with the help of former auditor Ellis Schultz, former state's attorney Tom Henning, we got moving in the right direction. Today, I can say that we have a very proficient HR department, and I'm proud of the fact that I had a little bit of input in that. So then, of course, we did the courthouse addition, this building, essentially because we didn't have any more office space. We had poor our judges, for one thing, and our state's attorneys operated on 3 different floors. The 3rd floor, the 2nd floor, well, 4 floors, because we had attorneys down in the basement. We had judges in the basement in spaces. So we needed to improve security I see former Sheriff Toohey there, who had a lot of input on how the security for this facility would work. And I think it's a great addition. I haven't heard anybody complain about this. So thank you to all those people. And I have to point out again that this was a $7 million project, paid cash. No special assessments, no mortgages, paid cash. And I'm just about done. The Stark County office complex campus over on west end of town. That, again, at the time that was built, that we had Stark County Social Services. It's now become Zone Social Services, basically operated by the state of North Dakota Health Department now. But at the time, we were overcrowded in their facility. We had the county extension office that was overcrowded, really didn't provide the type of atmosphere and services that are required. So we went ahead and did that. And again, that's a great facility. It has a very large functional community room for the community to use. It was about a $14 million project. Once again, paid cash. So we did a partnership with the Stark County Veterans Pavilion, working with the city of Dickinson, Dickinson Park and Recreation, and the veterans themselves. And if you haven't been there, and I'm sure all of you have, it's a wonderful, wonderful facility. So I need to take just a few more minutes. I want to thank former county commissioners that I was privileged to work with. I've mentioned some of these names: Chet Willer, Dwayne Bucky Wolf, George Nodlin, Bob Zent, Russ Hoff, Pete Kuntz, and Jay Elkin. And not mentioning any current commissioners, and for no reason, but these are people special to me. And then I want to thank those staff people and department heads and so forth. The auditor's office, Karen, Pam, Nicole, Lana, thank you guys. None of this county stuff works unless those, I call them worker bees, are doing their jobs and taking care of business. So the auditor's office, Natalie, our tax director's office, Natalie, and Sarah, hard work, challenging, and sometimes pretty difficult work. I know that. The recorder's office, Kim and her staff, thank you guys. Building and grounds, I have to, Mike, Rita, going all the way to past, Mary Rice. A special thank you to Veteran Service Office, Jessica and Wanda. They do incredible work. Incredible work. And then there's Travis at the weed board, and especially want to recognize my friends at the road department. These were some of the best days of my years. I always call it hanging out with the road guys. Every one of them, good people, good people. So, I'm done. And just thank you. Thank all of you guys. Appreciate it. Look forward to coming to meetings and sitting out there. So I'd like to offer a motion.
Hold on. If we're gonna put that stop sign there, I don't think Jeremy needs to spend the money on the redesign. And we don't have to have a special meeting.
I will get a hold of Jeremy. And so we will, as of now, the special meeting is off.
Don't need it.
Yes.
We're done.
Ken?
Well, if you will permit, I would like to move to adjourn.
And you can also second it, but I'll second it first.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?